You ever get a text that rips the floor out from under you? Mine came at 10:17 p.m. from my son. He said, "I'll be the best man. My new dad is wealthy. He's not like you, Dad." I didn't reply. I didn't beg. I just smiled, nodded, and drove to his mother's wedding. Not as a guest, not as his father, but as the man who was about to watch everything they built on lies come crashing down. You want to know what happened when the officiant said, "If anyone has something to say," and a stranger stood up and said, "I am." Stick around. I'll tell you exactly who he was and why that wedding never made it to the vows. Please subscribe if you want more stories like this. I was scraping the last of the burnt rice out of an old pot when my phone buzzed. It was 10:17 p.m. and I had work in 6 hours. My back ached, not from age, but from all the hours I was working to stay above water. I'd been sleeping on a friend's pull-out in a Bakersfield studio since the divorce. Every night, I'd close my eyes hoping tomorrow would feel less like failure. The message lit up the cracked screen of my phone. From my son, "I'll be the best man. My new dad is wealthy. He's not like you, Dad." There was no punctuation, just a raw, sharp sentence, like a knife sent through fiber optics straight to the part of my heart I hadn't let go of yet. I stared at it, thumb hovering. My first thought was to reply, to say something I'd regret. But instead, I just let the silence carry the weight. No emoji, no curse, no explanation. I reread it again, as if maybe it would make more sense the second time. My ex-wife, Clara, had wasted no time. We'd been divorced 3 months. She was already planning a wedding to someone she met during our last year of marriage, a man named Brent, a commercial developer from San Jose. Wealthy, polished, the kind of man who used words like portfolio and legacy in everyday conversation. I used to own a small hardware business before COVID wiped me out. Now I patched drywall and installed closet doors for landlords who didn't learn my name. My son, Jonah, was only 17 when the separation started. But he'd taken to Brent fast. I couldn't blame him. Brent had a convertible. Brent took him skiing. Brent bought him limited edition sneakers I couldn't afford even when things were good. Brent didn't forget his birthday. I stared at that text until the screen dimmed. Then I got up, rinsed the pot, and said nothing. The next morning, I quit my job, sold my truck for half of what it was worth, and left California. There was nothing left for me there except memories that soured in the mouth. Clara got the house, the retirement account, and Jonah. I got my old clothes, my tools, and a worn photo of Jonah when he was 10 and still ran into my arms after soccer games. I folded that photo into my wallet and drove east with the windows down. I didn't know what I was looking for. Maybe peace. Maybe distance. Maybe just a version of myself I could still respect. All I knew was that I wasn't going to fight for a seat at a table where I was only ever going to be the ghost in the corner. For 3 months, I stayed with an old friend from my Navy days outside Flagstaff. He lived quiet, worked nights at a security post, and let me crash in his garage without questions. That garage saved me. There was something about having space to think, to breathe, to not perform being okay. I picked up odd jobs, replacing roof tiles, clearing out sheds. Honest work. My hands ached again, but this time they ached from building, not from trying to hold together a life someone else already walked away from. I didn't hear much from Jonah. 2 texts, both logistics about school transcripts. Nothing more. Until I heard from a mutual friend. Clara was getting remarried. This weekend. A vineyard wedding in Carmel Valley. Jonah was giving a toast. I thought I'd feel rage. I thought I'd feel hollow. But instead, I felt ready. Not for revenge. Not yet. But for clarity. I rented a suit from a discount shop in Sedona. Pressed charcoal gray. White shirt. A tie Maria once said brought out my eyes. It didn't matter that I didn't have an invitation. I wasn't going to disrupt anything. I just wanted to see my son. One more time. See what kind of man he was becoming. I arrived 15 minutes before the ceremony. Parked far enough that no one would see me. The vineyard glowed in late afternoon light. Guests in linen and silk, the kind of affluence you could smell, orange blossom, oak barrels, catered beef tartare. I stood beneath a sycamore and watched the scene play out. Brent in his tailored tux, Clara in ivory, Jonah laughing beside the groomsmen. And then the officiant raised his voice and asked the room, If anyone here knows of a reason these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace. And someone did. A man I didn't recognize. He stood from the third row, raised a thick manila envelope, cleared his throat. I am the biological father of the groom, he said, voice calm. And this marriage is built on stolen lies. The crowd gasped. I didn't move. I just watched as the whole thing cracked open like an egg dropped on marble. And I felt, for the first time in years, the first breeze of something honest. Backslash. The man who stood up at the wedding wore a blue silk tie and a watch that probably cost more than my last car. He didn't look angry. He looked resolved, like a surgeon just before the incision. I am the biological father of the groom, he repeated, louder this time. And this marriage is built on stolen lies. At first, everyone thought it was a prank. The DJ lowered the volume. Clara laughed, short and tight, like she expected cameras to pop out. Jonah looked from Brent to his mother, then back to the man. That's when his smile cracked. I'm sorry, the man said to Jonah directly. I should have come sooner. I thought I was protecting you. But you deserve the truth. He held up the envelope. I have the paternity test. From 2005. Signed by your mother. Sealed by the court. My ears started ringing. Not from shock, something deeper. Like truth vibrating through bone. I didn't know the man's name, but I knew exactly what he was doing. Clara had been playing chess for years. Telling half-truths in court, rewriting our history in front of Jonah, sculpting herself into a victim while painting me as a disappointment. And I had let her. Out of guilt. Out of exhaustion. Out of love for a son who I thought was mine. Now it was clear, I was never even on the board. Jonah stood frozen at the altar. His posture collapsed into itself. Brent was already stepping away, his entire face folding into that tight, white-lipped expression wealthy men wear when lawsuits are incoming. Clara, the man said, turning his gaze to her now. You told me you were pregnant with someone else's child. You said I didn't need to be involved. So I stepped back. I built my company. I moved on. But last year, when I saw Jonah's face in an alumni magazine, I knew. His voice shook then. Just once. I saw my father's chin. My grandmother's eyes. I knew. Clara was silent. That was the most damning part. She didn't shout. She didn't deny it. She just stood there, the edges of her mouth twitching, like she couldn't decide which mask to put on next. I watched Jonah's hands, clenched fists at his sides, like he was trying to squeeze himself back into a past that had just vanished. I paid for the test quietly, the man said. I tried to come to you, Clara, but you blocked me. Then I saw the wedding announcement. And I knew you were trying to lock him into another lie. A chair scraped. Someone stood up to escort him out. He didn't resist. He just turned to Jonah one last time. I don't expect anything, he said. Not forgiveness. Not a relationship. I just wanted you to know who you are. And who used you. Then he walked out. No drama. No raised voice. Just the truth. And it hit harder than any tantrum ever could. The officiant, God help him, tried to resume. Brent stepped down from the altar and whispered something into Clara's ear. She turned red, then pale. Jonah. Jonah didn't move. I did. I walked up to him, past the rows of gasping guests, past Clara, who finally saw me. Her face twisted, maybe in recognition, maybe in fear. I didn't touch my son. I just stood next to him. You wanted a rich dad? I said quietly. Now you've got two. He flinched. And neither of us is staying. And then I turned. Walked away. No applause. No music. Just the sound of shoes on gravel and a house of cards collapsing in the breeze. They say you can't compete with money. But money never competes with truth. It just delays it. And truth has perfect timing. The wedding didn't go on. Not really. Brent's lawyer arrived before dessert. Clara's mother started crying about the shame. The caterers packed up early, and guests left with their linen napkins still folded. There were no vows, no dancing, no toast from Jonah. And the man who dropped the truth bomb? He was gone before sunset. But what he left behind, those words, that envelope, stuck harder than champagne on silk. I didn't return to my motel right away. I sat in my car at the edge of the vineyard and watched the place empty out like a deflated parade. Clara came out once, barefoot, holding her heels like she didn't know what to do with them. She looked around for me. I stayed still. She wasn't looking out of love. She was scanning the damage. And then I saw Jonah. He walked out alone, jacket over his shoulder, dress, shirt half untucked. He looked like a boy who had just aged 5 years in 1 hour. I don't think he saw me. I don't think he wanted to see anyone. It was the first time I truly understood what betrayal looks like when it lands on the innocent. The next morning, I got a call from an unknown number. It was the man from the wedding. "Hi," he said. "My name's Charles Lennox. You don't know me, but I think we've both been standing in the same fire for a long time." I waited. "I'm not trying to replace you," he said, quickly. "And I know you're probably furious, or maybe relieved. I just wanted to talk." I stayed silent. Charles continued. "When I first met Clara, she told me she was recently divorced. We went out a few times. She was magnetic, sharp, beautiful, but there was always something off. Like she was building something, just not with me in it." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. I knew about Jonah the whole time. She was open about having a son, said the father was out of the picture. I didn't press it. "Then why did you come to the wedding?" I asked, my voice low. "Because of the loan," he said. And that's when I sat up. "She forged my name," Charles said. "A personal loan through a secondary lender. High interest. Said it was for property development. I didn't find out until I got a call from a collection agency. She listed me as a guarantor." "Jesus Christ," I muttered. "She's in deep," Charles said. "Private school tuition, back taxes, medical bills, and now she was trying to merge assets with Brent." The wedding wasn't a celebration. It was a clean slate scam. A cold rage spread through me. Slow, controlled, familiar. He said it like it was a spreadsheet, but all I could see were the late nights I worked overtime to cover her dreams. All the compromises. All the times Jonah asked why I wasn't around more, and I smiled through the guilt. Clara hadn't just betrayed me. She'd used me as insulation. "She's been playing all of us," Charles said. I wanted to bring it to Brent directly, but the wedding was the only place I knew I could get everyone's attention. "You picked your moment," I said. "I don't want anything from Jonah. I couldn't let her keep lying to him. That kid deserved better." And with that, Charles hung up. That afternoon, Jonah texted me. "Can we talk?" I waited an hour before replying. "Yes." He chose a diner off Highway 1. One of those old spots with cracked booths and waitresses who call you hon. He was already there when I walked in. Hood up, eyes low. Like a boy who'd come home from war with the wrong uniform. He didn't look up right away. "I don't know what's real," he said finally. I sat. "Is he really my biological father?" "Yes," I said. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." Jonah nodded. Slowly. "And you still raised me anyway?" I looked at him. Looked into that face I thought was mine. The face I loved even now. "From the moment you were born," I said. "Your first fever, your first loose tooth, the time you skinned your knee so bad you screamed for me in the middle of a soccer field. I was your father. No DNA test changes that." His shoulders folded in. "She lied to me. She lied to both of us." He was quiet for a long time. Then, "I told you Brent was better. I remember." "I'm sorry. I know." He looked up finally, his eyes red. "Why didn't you fight harder? For custody. For everything." I didn't blink. "Because I thought staying silent was the price for your peace." He cried then. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just the quiet tears of a kid who suddenly saw how much he'd lost while trying to gain everything. "Charles is right," I said, when he composed himself. "You deserve better. But you still have time to demand it." He nodded. Slowly. Then he reached into his jacket and slid a piece of paper toward me. "I found this in her office drawer," he said. "It's the loan. In his name. But the bank account, it's hers." I looked at it. Handwritten notes. Interest rate at 14%. A signature that looked suspiciously traced. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was criminal. I folded the paper slowly. "Thank you." He looked up. "What are you going to do?" I stared out the window at the coastline. "Tell the truth," I said, with proof. And for the first time, Jonah didn't flinch. I didn't bring a lawyer. I didn't need one. I brought a folder. Clara's front door was the same shade of red I painted it 8 years ago, back when she wanted the house to look like a postcard. It did. Everything about that house was curated for admiration. From the flower boxes to the wine rack to the throw pillows that cost more than a week's wages. I knocked once. Loud. Firm. She answered in yoga pants and a silk robe, hair tied back, makeup faint. The kind of soft domestic image she wore when she was trying to look harmless. When she saw the folder in my hand, she didn't smile. "What is this?" she asked flatly. "Where's Jonah?" She didn't answer. I walked past her. Jonah was in the kitchen, eating cereal straight from the box like he used to when he was 12. He looked up when he saw me, then at her. "It's okay," he said. I asked him to come. Her mouth opened, then closed. Something shifted in her eyes. Panic dressed up as control. "I want answers," Jonah said, quiet but direct. "I gave you answers," she said. "That man at the wedding is lying. He's unstable." "Then why did you block his number for years?" "I was protecting you." "From what?" Clara hesitated. "From confusion. From instability. I didn't want some random man who vanished from your life to suddenly." "He didn't vanish," Jonah interrupted. "You told him I wasn't his." "I didn't want him involved." Her voice cracked for the first time. The robe shifted slightly, revealing her shoulder, her vulnerability. She was trying to look fragile now. It wasn't working. I opened the folder and laid the documents on the counter between us. Loan application. Signature forged. Bank account traced to you. She went pale. "You used Charles's name to take out $35,000. Then tried to secure a clean slate by marrying Brent, who, by the way, is now suing you for fraud." "That's not true," she whispered. Jonah stepped back from her. "Mom." She turned toward him, hand out like she could reach back in time and rearrange the last 10 minutes. "Baby, listen to me. Everything I did for us." "No," I said. "Everything you did for yourself." Jonah was a pawn. I was the backup plan. Charles was the insurance policy. And Brent? He was the exit strategy. Her voice turned cold then. I watched her slip the mask back on like it was second nature. "You think this is about truth?" she said to me. "This is about money. About power. And if you think you can shame me into giving that up, you're even more pathetic than when I left you." Jonah stepped in between us. "I'm not letting you talk to him like that." She blinked. "Excuse me." "He raised me," Jonah said. "He showed up. You lied. You manipulated. You let me treat him like garbage while you were out here playing Monopoly with people's lives. I did what I had to do to survive." "No," Jonah said. "You did what you had to do to win. And now you lost." Clara's face shifted then, not rage. Not denial. Hollow. Like the bluff had finally been called. I collected the papers. "You'll be getting a call," I said quietly. "From the lender. From Brent's legal team. Maybe even from the police. What you do next is up to you. But I won't be cleaning up your mess anymore. You have no right." "I have every right," I said, voice steady. "I paid for your life in silence for years. Now I'll pay for the truth in full volume." Jonah picked up his backpack and followed me to the door. "Where are you going?" Clara called after him. "To Dad's." There was no hesitation in his voice. Just choice. At my place. Jonah sat on the floor and looked through old photos I hadn't been able to throw away. Pictures of him holding Lego trophies, birthday candles, trophies from Little League. "She let me believe you stopped caring," he said. "I never stopped," I said. "I just didn't know how to fight her without hurting you." He nodded. Slowly, like every memory was rearranging itself in real time. "What now?" he asked. "Now," I said, "you get to rebuild your life with truth as the foundation." He looked at me. "Can I stay for a while?" "You never had to ask," I said. "You're my son." He smiled. Small, but real. They say justice is slow, but I watched it arrive on a Tuesday morning in a white envelope. It had all the weight of consequence sealed inside. Certified letterhead, legal phrasing, the kind of words that can't be undone. Clara's house was in default. The lender Charles contacted had launched a fraud investigation. Brent's lawyers were freezing accounts and suing for damages. And the wedding venue, the one she never paid the final deposit for, was taking her to small claims court. Every piece of the life she tried to curate was now collapsing like it had no foundation. Because it didn't. I didn't gloat. I didn't even post about it. Not like she would have. I just read the letter, set it down on my coffee table, next to Jonah's cereal bowl, and got up to make breakfast. We had eggs that morning. With toast. Real toast. And Jonah, for the first time, asked if he could help. He flipped the eggs and oversalted them. He burned the second slice of bread. But he laughed, and the sound didn't break anything inside me. It healed. A week later, I got an invitation in the mail. Not to a wedding, to a high school graduation. Jonas. It had his name on the envelope, but inside it said, "To Dad. Because you earned that word every day I forgot it." I read it twice. Then I stood at my kitchen sink and cried for 7 full minutes. Not because I was broken, but because something old had finally finished dying and made room for something new. The ceremony was at a community field. Nothing fancy. Metal folding chairs. Half the audio cut out during the principal's speech. But it was the most beautiful place I'd ever sat. Jonah walked across that stage in his worn sneakers and borrowed gown and looked out into the crowd, and I knew when his eyes found mine. He didn't smile. He nodded. Small. Just once. But that nod said everything. It said thank you. It said I see you now. It said, I'm sorry I didn't before. Afterward, we stood by the snack table eating bad cupcakes and warm soda. People took photos. One woman, a teacher, asked if I was Jonah's father. Yes, I said. I am. She smiled. You must be proud. I am, I said again. But this time it meant something different. I wasn't just proud of him. I was proud of me. That night, after he went to sleep, I poured a single glass of whiskey and sat on the porch. I looked out at the darkness and thought about that wedding. The one I wasn't invited to. The one that never finished. And I thought about the toast I never got to give. So I raised my glass, not for the cameras, not for the guests, just for me. To the son who thought money made a man. To the woman who thought lies made a life. And to the truth, which showed up uninvited, but right on time. I took the sip. It burned. It bloomed. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like a man holding on to something broken. I felt like a man holding the pen again, writing his own ending. Or maybe his beginning. What would you say if your child told you someone else had replaced you? Would you chase the lie, or wait for the truth to bring them home?